This is a follow-up video in response to my very last upload, which was about marriage. It was called Getting Married, the Only Reasons You Would Consider It. And there were a couple of good posts in the comments section, which I read and would like to consider here for a few minutes. Basically, both of them centered around the topic of children. And really, my whole video, if you think about it, if you listen to it, it is about children and children as being the only reason why you would get married. It's really the only reason you would. And if you don't want children, then you should not even consider it. And I'm not just talking about state-defined marriage. I'm talking about marriage even in the biblical sense, in a private, spiritual, private agreement between two people and God. So either of those senses, if you don't want children, really you shouldn't even marry. You shouldn't even think about it. Anyway, what about people who do want kids? You know, a lot of us in MGTOW are a little bit older, and we've gone through the experience of having a marriage, and a lot of us have had kids. So I don't want to say it's easier for us to tell people not to have kids and to, have the whole MGTOW mentality and say, well, don't do this or don't do that. I don't want to say it's easier for us to say that. But put yourself in the mind of a younger man. And it's just natural to want these things. It is natural in your biological script, right? To want these. And in this particular case, I'm talking about having kids. I even admit, and I said in my last video, I think having kids can be a good thing. Even though I don't have primary custody of my kids, and I see them in the typical arrangement that dads these days, get to see their kids, which is on the weekends, I still am glad that I have kids, and I wouldn't change it for anything. So if you are a younger man, I honestly don't know what to tell these people. I really don't, and I'm being completely honest. And that's not really a cop-out. There are just some things in life. Life is very complex. Who was it? The philosopher Socrates that said, anyone who believes that they know does not know. And the only way that you can be wise and to know is to admit that you don't know. So I think that applies to MGTOW. Nobody has all the answers. And I know that's not something that is very conducive and entertaining and educational for viewers to listen to, when I say that as a content producer, but it's true. Life isn't always able to be put into a box, and sometimes it's hard to apply absolutes. So for younger people who want kids, is there actually an answer? I don't know if there is. And the reason why it's such a difficult thing to address is because the laws in this country. There really is no way that you can get around them. In my video, I advised men to not get a state marriage license. I said to have a private, non-legal contract between a woman if you want to marry her in your terms and a biblical sense. But the problem with that, I'll admit, there is a problem with that, which is once kids come along, that makes everything go out the window. Then no matter what, things become legal because your child has a birth certificate, because the children are then considered directly or indirectly property of the state, right? And you have to follow certain rules as far as raising them and providing for them. And if there's a divorce, you are legally required to pay child support. So again, there's no absolute answer that I can give young people. So getting back to the issue here of, is wanting kids consistent with MGTOW? I'm sure some people would say yes, some people would say no. That's the beauty, I guess you could say, of MGTOW, is that there's so much diversity in our community, right? I listed the only two absolutes. Again, no marriage, no cohabitation. All else really is up to the individual man. If you, in going your own way, want kids, who can say no? Who can tell you no? If, in going your own way, you don't want kids, who also can tell you no? right? Tesla had no interest in having kids. Jesus had no kids. So it really might come down to the individual man. But I do have to admit that children do throw a wrench in the whole MGTOW philosophy. And maybe women know this, which is why, some of them are so eager to, put a bun in the oven, because once you do, you're tied down for life, right? I think women know that. But you just have to decide as a man if this is something that is important enough for you and valuable enough as far as your priorities to warrant such a high risk. Because all the other avenues are safe. MGTOW generally is fail-proof. When you don't marry, you don't cohabitate. You really, other than maybe having a possible accusation by a female, right, like an ex-partner or someone at work, MGTOW is pretty fail-proof, especially if you are a MGTOW monk. And children throw a wrench in that system, which I don't have a clear-cut answer for. I'd like to open this up for discussion at this point and encourage you to write a comment in the section below if you have any thoughts on this topic. Thank you for listening.